Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. People that have taken time out of their school day to come down from John Barry. Would you please stand up and let's welcome them to city government? I would also note that I am an alumni of John Barry, and I gave them a picture of the old school that I went to in 19. But thank you for coming down. I hope to come out to your school and maybe spend some quality time talking about what we do down here. So thank you for coming. Okay. Ms. Williams, would you please read the title of the bill? Got it. I should have read it.
Bill number 170244, an ordinance amending Title 12 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Traffic Code by amending Chapter 1200 entitled Traffic Control Devices to require a report, recommendation, and appropriate safety improvements regarding hazardous intersections, and by amending Chapter 1400 entitled Penalties and Procedures for Violations to provide for a reward program, all under certain terms and conditions, to prevent against incidents of pedestrian-related deaths, particularly those caused by vehicles that unlawfully pass trolleys or fail to yield to emergency response vehicles.
I recognize the presence of a quorum in Councilman Tollenberger, Councilman Greenlee, myself, and Councilman Heenan. If I could, I'd like to take a minute to explain why this is important. About a year and a half ago, a grandmother was with her grandchildren getting off the trolley, 15 trolley at 56 and Girard. A person driving a vehicle ignored traffic laws, decided that they were going to go around that trolley, and in one heroic act, that grandmother pushed her grandchildren to safety, was hit by that vehicle. The individual did not stop, drug her a half a block where she died. What we in Philadelphia, this is not new or just germane to my district, but whether you talk about Roosevelt Boulevard or Henry Avenue, there are particular intersections, crossways that are dangerous not only to people in vehicles, but pedestrians, bikers, people who are just trying to get from one point to another. And what we want to do with this bill is to begin to track it a little better, to be able to say if an accident happens on multiple occasions at a location, then we want to know why. We want to know, is there something that we can do, whether it's to add a stoplight, stop sign, or a speed bump where appropriate, to create a safety assist through the streets department. So we're requiring them to tell us, report to when there are instances where a vehicle collides with another vehicle, but more importantly, when a vehicle collides with a biker or pedestrian. And in so doing, be able to do things, take into account for those issues, and create calming mechanisms that may well save lives. So with that, Ms. Williams, who do we have to testify today?
Christopher Pulaski and Marc Chance.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Councilman.
Please have a seat, state your name for the record, and begin your testimony.
Good morning, Councilman Jones and other members of the Public Safety Committee. I'm Christopher Pulaski, and I'm the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems, otherwise known as OTIS, a division of the Managing Director. Deputy Managing Director Michael Carroll heads OTIS, which is charged with driving change through our transportation and infrastructure systems. OTIS leads a portfolio of departments including streets transportation, street sanitation, and Philadelphia Water Department to provide cost-effective, quality services with a focus on the resident. I'm here today to testify in support of Bill number 170244 with the proposed amendments, a bill regarding hazardous intersections. In 2017, Otis led the creation of a Vision Zero 3-year action plan, which has the goal of eliminating deaths and serious injuries by 2030. We believe that safety and human life are our first priority. Per the proposed amendments, a hazardous intersection is one where 2 streets on the high injury network, as designed by Vision Zero, cross. Identifying hazardous intersections and making them safe is an important part of achieving our goal. We support the bill with its proposed amendments and appreciate Councilman Jones and the staffers' cooperation in working cooperatively with us. Specifically, this bill requires a report to be generated upon a district council member's request after a collision involving serious bodily injury or death occurs at a hazardous intersection. We understand that the 1-month turnaround time to provide a report to council after a request has been made will be lengthened to 60 days, which we appreciate. We hope that additional time will be sufficient. Identifying the appropriate engineering, education, and enforcement needed to make an intersection safe in an equitable fashion does require considerable time and effort. Thank you again for working with our Otis team and for the opportunity to testify regarding this important issues, and I'll take any questions you have at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the part of the committee? So you must have done a really good job. If they have no questions, then your testimony was succinct and to the point, and they understood it. So thank you for your testimony.
No, thank you very much.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Councilman Jones and other members. I am in AARP Pennsylvania. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of Bill number 170244 and to propose a few important amendments. My name is Marc Chance, and I am an AARP Pennsylvania volunteer. My testimony today is on behalf of more than 300 million AARP members and more than 1.8 million AARP members in the state of Philadelphia, in the city of Philadelphia, ages 50 plus statewide. Bill number 70244 will help the city of Philadelphia to take a positive step toward improving roadways, safeties by amending Philadelphia's traffic codes to address hazardous intersections. We appreciate your attention to this critical issue. Crossing the street should not mean crossing your fingers, yet every hour, pedestrians and others use of our roadways are killed because a street crosswalk or an intersection is unsafe. Children, older adults, people of color, and low income are disproportionately the victims of these fatalities. According to the January 17th to 2018 blog post of the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, 96 people were killed in traffic crashes in 2017, 40 of whom were pedestrians, 3 of whom were bicyclists. This is based on statistics provided to the coalition by the Philadelphia Police Department. While this represents a decline from 2016, the number of deaths is still alarming. For this reason, AARP fights for the adoption of the policies and codes changes that support the concept of Vision Zero. Vision Zero has a strategy that prioritizes safety and coordination as important factors that contribute to safety, mobility, including infrastructure, law enforcement, and education. Vision Zero sets the goal of eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries. It takes a multidisciplinary approach, bringing together diverse stakeholders like traffic planners, engineers, police officers, policymakers, and public health professionals to address a complex problem. Bill number 170244 supports the activities of the objectivities of Vision Zero. It charges the Department of Streets with identifying hazardous intersections, assessing the cause of collisions, and implementing a plan of corrective action to make our streets safer for those living and traveling in Pennsylvania. AARP is pleased that the bill includes a specific time frame with which the council must adapt applicable ordinances that may be necessary to reduce the number of collisions in the vicinity of hazardous intersections. We urge the council to do the same and vote positively to adopt Bill number 170244 with inclusion of the amendments previously mentioned. We commend our commitment to eliminating road fatalities and injuries on our streets and making Philadelphia a great place for all ages. Sincerely, Marc Chance, AARP representative.
Thank you so much for your testimony. In 2008, when I first came here, the first demonstration, the first protest that I experienced was up by senior citizens up by my 5 Points, Belmont, and Ford Road. In that area, there might be 5 senior assisted living facilities. Many of people that are there are in wheelchairs. So there was a giant intersection that separated then Pathmark in the center. And so without the light pedestrian button, they would go out on a green light, get halfway there, and it would turn red on them. And it, you know, even when you are fully able to walk across the street, it's scary. But when you're in a wheelchair, trying to figure out, do I go back, do I go forward? And all too often, people driving cars aren't as polite as they should be. It was a scary thing, so we were able to work with them. And that's how I found out how much stop signs and stoplights actually cost, which was an interesting thing. But thank you, because the same thing applies to our seniors who have to make that decision. And what was your quote? You said something in the beginning.
What did I say?
You said something about pushing a button, good luck, or cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. That's
what did I say here? Oh, yeah.
Crossing the street,
crossing the street shouldn't mean crossing your fingers.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to use that if you don't mind.
Okay.
That's a good quote.
Thank you.
Are there any questions, members?
Yes.
Councilman Tollenberg?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and thank you for your leadership on this issue and bringing this forward. Ms. Chance, thank you very much for you taking the time, and your testimony was rather complete. I do have one question, if it exists, as far as statistics. You cited in your testimony that 96 people were killed last year.
Yes.
Is there any sense on how many of them were senior citizens?
Not to my knowledge. This information, according to the January 17th, 218 blog post of the Bicycle Coalition, okay. 96 people were killed in traffic. I don't know about the individual statistics.
It just would be, once again, another statistic that would help in some ways. You know, it's not. And I'll tell you an incident just recently coming home on Saturday. There was a senior citizen crossing at Frankfurt and Cottman, totally oblivious I mean, I had the right of way, but I seen this person in the middle of the street. Well, I know I have enough sense to stop, and I waved him on. He initially complained to me, and I said, well, please look at the light. It's green for me and red for you.
Yeah.
And he got it, and he actually apologized, but I still let him cross. The fact of the matter that he was out there. I'm not certain what we could do about it, but the fact is we need to know about it, that people are just not paying attention the way they should. So, Ms. Chance, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Any other questions? Seeing none, I would just remind our young observers today, one of the things that scares me is when they have the earbuds in their ears.
Yes.
And they're not paying attention as they might want to do when they cross that street. That is, the music might be good, it's not that good. Put safety first. Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both for your testimony. And, you know, I just wanted to applaud, you know, the councilman who recognizes that, you know, in addition to public safety, there's a need to really gather some more data and be a little more precise when it comes to notification to the district council members who service the communities, and many communities. You know, we represent, as a district council member, approximately 165,000 people, maybe 12, 13 separate communities, and separately distinct, and has different challenges. And you know, my district borders on the west side, Roosevelt Boulevard. You know, I know Otis and Streets have been doing an incredible job with trying to make sure that, you know, Vision Zero is a safe way to travel, both on foot and by bus, with new innovative you know, techniques, and you know, the city and the state is putting in a lot of money to take a look at that, and again, the councilman's recognizing this, and there's, you know, you said that the Bicycle Coalition had 96 deaths last year. Well, for us, the first thing I thought of, I mean, is obviously one is too many, but having more information and data sets to go along with that to see if there's a pattern. But that's why it's so important that, you know, Otis and Streets and, you know, the infrastructure, everybody, you know, coordinating together for Vision Zero is critical to public safety. And, you know, and I applaud the efforts and look forward to, you know, see, hopefully we don't get any data, right? The best case scenario is we have no data to provide. But if we do, we can figure out ways to leverage resources to make sure that our communities are all safe, even if it is, you know, having a pedestrian crosswalk with the, you know, the button, you know, maybe in street painting, you know, for the intersections. But they're, you know, it's 2018 and everybody's engineered a much safer way to coexist as we look for alternative solutions to your typical car transportation. So, thank you.
You're welcome. But if needed, I can, since we're in constant communication with Vision Zero, we could certainly get a better notation of the statistics for you.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we can try to, we'll see if we can get some of those breakdowns by age group, like Councilman Taubenberger asked for.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the presence of Councilman Genn to be a part of this committee. She's early for also the second hearing, which we are thankful for.
I have a question.
Do you have a question, Councilman Taubenberger?
Yes. Mr. Petrovsky, thank you again for being here. You have according to your data, you have a PhD. What is that in?
Yeah, my PhD is in urban transportation systems engineering.
Okay, well, it's perfect for what you're doing, so thank you for your service. Are the most dangerous intersections, are they posted anywhere that we could easily take a look at them?
They're not publicly posted, the most dangerous intersections, but we do have a public posting of our high injury network. That's the network of streets in Philadelphia that we believe, based on the data, are the most dangerous. It's 12% of streets. There's about 2,500 miles of streets in the city of Philadelphia, and the streets department itself is responsible for 2,100 of those streets. It's the 12% of streets, the high injury network, that are responsible for over 50% of the deaths and serious injuries. So those are the ones that we're targeting for our initial, for work in our initial 3-year action plan.
Are most crashes, are they at intersections, or could be anywhere?
Most crashes are at intersections. Yes, most deaths and serious injuries do happen at intersections. Some do happen mid-block, but most happen at intersections.
Do you think at some point we could have a list of maybe the top 10, the worst 10?
Yeah, we could try to get that list for you.
Because the more knowledge that we all have, the more eyes are on it, maybe people will be a little more cautious. Maybe we will know and take a look at it. And sometimes it's interesting, ideas come from many places.
Yeah, the more eyes we have on it, the better.
And particularly people that are very familiar and live or work in the area, or even walk across that street. They might be able to tell you much more than would ever come out of a particular hearing if we could get to them. So I think the more information we could provide the public, the more helpful we could come with a solution.
Yeah, the cycle of deaths and serious injuries is truly tragic. And there was a cyclist killed over the weekend on Spring Garden, and there was someone killed. 2 vehicles crashed into each other at Cotman and the Boulevard, I believe, last night.
I met a woman recently from Drexel University. She was having a fundraiser on behalf of her son. In fact, I met her at a Safe Streets event. I looked in that woman's eyes and I could almost cry myself.
Yeah.
She had but one child.
Yeah.
He came here to Drexel University and he never came back. He died on a bicycle. That moved me beyond words. So the more we know, the better we can help humanity going forward, all of us.
Yeah.
Safety's everything. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Before I recognize Councilman Heenan, there was also a fatal accident down at the stadium. A motorcycle rider
Yes.
who tried to speed past a car, dangerous game of chicken, and it took his life. His parents had come into town to be a part of the game, and it's just so we have a responsibility as stewards to try to increase our knowledge, as Councilman said, but also dissuade bad behavior.
Yes.
And sometimes this isn't a question of stoplights or stop signs or speed bumps. It's bad decisions, and we have to be conscious of that. Councilman Heenan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, you know, through community engagement and community involvement, the information for specific accidents or body injury or death, unfortunately, that is extremely helpful. And the councilman had talked about, Councilman Toltenberg, about, you know, educating the public. I think the public educates us, all right, because I have extended office hours. I have a district office, so I'm in different neighborhoods all the time in addition to the community meetings, and traffic always comes up. And it comes up in various different ways, right? It's just not through the Bicycle Coalition or we want to add bike lanes or we need to change behavior. We need to stick with educating the public and listening to the public. So I guess, you know, I'm wondering, you know, when we have a hazardous corner or intersection and it's been brought to our attention, maybe we should follow it up with a, you know, in concert with district council person to go out to the community and say, hey, these are some of the challenges. I mean, just like we do when you add bike lanes, right? We go out and we say, we're going to add bike lanes, you know, we're going to have a little pattern shift and you're going to get used to it. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, right over my district office, we had bike lanes and it took me a little bit to, you know, get used to, you know, change my own behavior, right? But I changed and, you know, PGW came by and tore up the street a little bit and, you know, the bike lanes were gone. I'm like, now where are the bike lanes?
Yeah.
Right? But it's that kind of positive behavior change. You know, I've had people in the community who just sat with me last week and they were talking about the timing of the lights. And sometimes when they have a pattern change in the lights, people try to hurry up and beat the light, and that's when the accidents happen, right? Or unless they're on their devices and they're texting or you know, not concentrating, right? They try to beat the light because they know that 3 down the line it's going to be a little different, and you know, nothing good happens when it comes to that. But I would be interested because that's what the community is saying to me. I mean, I had a gentleman talk to me about you know, doing, what do they call, mode splits, right, on the lights, and then your timing of lights. He talked about it for about, you know, 20 minutes straight, how important it is, and you know, he gave me a little different insight on people trying to beat the lights, right, and how critical some of the timings are. So, you know, the information that you gather really can result in just, you know, tweaks and, you know, from here and a little from there to make things extremely safer if on the low end. But you know, I'm interested to see if we could, you know, possibly take back some of the findings if God forbid, you know, something happens. Again, I don't want to get any information from you, or that means where everybody's doing good. But you know, not everybody adheres to everything, and they try to get there 3 seconds, you know, quicker. And that's when accidents happen. It'd be one myself would be interested in taking that information to the community and getting their own feedback, you know, when it arises. So look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, we hope to roll out an education campaign this year to do some of that work, and then, you know, follow it up with some enforcement efforts. I think, you know, as you know, we don't have all the tools we'd like, and there's a bill in Harrisburg right now to do a pilot for automated speed enforcement on the boulevard. And, you know, timing the lights, like you said, is an important part so that people are encouraged to drive at a safe speed, but then, you know, not everybody still takes that cue. So some automated enforcement has been really successful in slowing down traffic in other places. And I think it's, you know, good if we would try that here in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions? I also know that there is a representative of the Streets Department here. Would you like to hear from them? He says he can testify or not. He is in support. Well, I think we're good. All right. Are there any others to testify on this bill? Seeing none, that concludes, and thank you for your testimony, that concludes our public hearing. We will now go into a public meeting to consider action to be taken on bill number 170244. The chair recognizes Councilmember Greenlee for a motion to amend the bill number 170244.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the amendments to bill number 170244 be adopted.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that amendments to bill number 170244 be approved. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The amendment to bill number 170244 has been approved. Chair now recognizes again Councilmember Greenlee for a motion on bill number 170244 as amended.
You want a suspension?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 170244 as amended be reported out as committee with favorable recommendation, and that the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading our next session of council.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 170244 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at our next session of council. Councilwoman Janie Blackwell is also here.
I was here, you weren't ready. Finished the whole hearing. Mark, something's just not right about it.
On the record,
So she's in time for the vote. She's in time for the vote. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. This concludes the business of the Committee on Public Safety for today. I ask that members of the Public Safety Committee please remain, as we will be beginning shortly the Joint Committee on Public Safety and Streets and Services to hear testimony on resolution number 170224. Thank you.
Good.
I didn't know that.